Hi guys, welcome to the Overdrive Digital Show, a show where we bring you the latest news from the motoring world and our experts join in to answer all your motoring queries live. That would be Bird for the day in a few moments from now, so you can jot down all your questions in the comments section. This week, we've spoken a lot about the Carens, the three-row seater from Kia rivaling the Hyundai Alcazar. In case you've missed all the buzz, here's a quick recap of what Kia is offering in this new vehicle.
This is the new Kia Carens. Now it's based on the same three-row platform that was co-developed by Hyundai and Kia that gave us the Alcazar. But unlike that SUV crossover, this is a recreational vehicle or RV. The Carens takes a fresh design approach compared to what we've seen from Kia India so far. They're calling it the Opposites United design philosophy, which, like the Alcazar, places the headlight in the bumper. The LED DRLs that form the brow also double up as blinkers on the top trim, placing them in a safer and more visible position than the Alcazar. The detailing of the taillights have a sonnet inspiration to them, and while the seamless reflector strip establishes width, the multi-layered tailgate helps the Carens look tall. I quite like the attention to detail. For example, the knurled finish that we appreciated on the Sonnet or the Seltos finds its way here too, but not just on the grille but also in the chrome garnish. Not just in the front bumper but also in the rear bumper. So I like this attention to detail. It just makes it feel more premium. It feels like Kia's put a lot of thought into it. Sadly though, none of these details are visible from afar, and the Carens ends up looking rather drab from a distance, especially because the face isn't as striking as its siblings. Speaking of numbers, the Carens isn't as long, wide or tall as the Marazzo or the Innova Krista, but it is larger in all respects than the Alcazar and the XL6. Now, because this sits on a wider or a longer wheelbase, the rear door is a lot wider than its sibling, the Alcazar, and that ensures that ingress and egress in the second and the third row is actually quite easy. What I also like is this little button on the second row seats. Press it and it just drops the seat. No need to pull any levers, nothing. You know what? Some of the more luxury-oriented Germans with three rows don't come with a feature like this. Apart from the wide door aperture, the floor is not too tall, not too low. So getting in and out is going to be an easy affair for kids, for older people, for people with knee or back issues. It shouldn't be that much of a problem. What you see here is the 6-seater layout, which means you get these two captain seats in the middle row. You also get a 7-seater layout where you get a flat bench in the middle row. In terms of these captain seats, they're not the same size as the captain seats that you have in the front row, which means that the shoulder support is fine for me at 5'8", but for taller people, it could be a problem. Similarly, the headroom could be a problem for taller people. The Carens gets the same utility tray on the back of the passenger seat as the Alcazar, but behind the driver's seat, you get an air purifier instead, which is the largest that we've seen from the Koreans so far, considering the size of this cabin. Now, usually I don't like getting into the third row of these cars, but honestly, it's not so bad in here. The Carens has really sort of surprised me pleasantly. You see, you don't have to sit in much of a knees up position. Now, you can adjust the recline and the reach for this seat to an extent. But the knee room is actually quite good. The foot space is actually quite good too. And I'm an adult, I'm not a kid. Kids are going to have a much more comfortable time in here. What I also like is that the seat back can be reclined. This one, for example, has been reclined by 33 degrees. That's the limit that you can take it to. While mine is a little bit more upright, and this is how I like it. But if you really want to just have that laid back drive in here, you can do that as well. You get those similar AC vents like we saw in the second row, so they can be adjusted for the diffuse flow, etc. And you also have a cup holder. You also have a USB-C charging port here, one on this side, one cup holder this side. So overall, it's actually not a bad place to be in. With the three rows up, the boot space is a scanty 216 liters. But since there is no panoramic roof, you could invest in a roof rack if you are going to go on road trips with a full house very often. The flat bottom steering wheel looks great, but somehow its position always seems lower for your seating height, and that can feel awkward to some drivers. The front seats are the most comfortable in this cabin, but all the adjustments are mechanical.
On the top of the line models, you get a 10.25-inch infotainment. You also get a fully digital instrumentation. On the lower models, you still get a fully digital instrumentation, though it's smaller in size. Similarly, the infotainment is also smaller in size.
While ISOFIX mounts are standard, so are these safety systems across all the trims.
I think that's a great move by Kia to really make all this safety equipment standard across the range. So you see, even if the crash test agencies want to pick out an under-equipped variant for their crash tests, they can't. Neither can you. So that's good news for the family. Building further on the safety aspect, you get all 4 disc brakes as standard, and I really like the tuning of the brakes on this. The brake pedal feel is quite good. The brake pedal feel is progressive. It's not too grabby, whether you're braking at high speeds on the highway or simply using the brakes at city speeds. It feels nice and progressive. It's very easy to get used to. Now, as we've seen with most new cars from Kia, there are a plethora of engines and gearbox options for you to choose from depending on your pocket size. But unlike the Alcazar, which uses the 2-litre new engine from the Elantra, the 2-litre petrol engine, this one continues to use the same 1.4-litre turbocharged direct injection petrol engine that we've seen in the Creta, in the Seltos. And honestly, having lived with the Creta 1.4 for so long, I think this 140 PS engine is more than adequate for the Carens, even if you are running a full house.
And for most days when you aren't really traveling with all the 3 rows occupied, the 1.4 will actually return better fuel economy compared to the 2-litre petrol. And since these engines are shared with the Seltos, I hope that Kia passes on the benefits of economies of scale to the customer and prices the Carens lower than the Alcazar.
The other engine is, of course, the tried and tested diesel engine. We love that quite a bit on the Creta, but with a 3-row application, we've said in the past that it sometimes feels a bit inadequate, especially if you are using it with the automatic transmission, because sometimes that automatic is a little late to respond, especially when you want to get those quick overtakes, negotiate a gap in traffic. And with a full house, sometimes it just doesn't give you that instantaneous power and torque. On most other occasions, like commuting in the city, cruising on the highway, it does its job just fine. So if you want a slightly enthusiastic bit of performance from the diesel engine, you might want to choose the manual. But if you choose the convenience of the automatic, all you need to do is just plan your overtakes a little bit better. Now, on this particular test, we've only been able to sample the petrol and the diesel automatics. But Kia also assures that the manual transmission has a lighter clutch now, lighter than even the Seltos. What I'm really impressed with is the ride quality. Now, we've typically seen that Hyundai cars and Kia cars have different suspension setups. Hyundais usually feel a little softer. The Kia cars, they feel a little sportier. They have a slightly firmer setup. But with the Carens and the kind of intent that this car has, they've actually gone even softer than the Alcazar. That is a good thing. I mean, I was quite impressed with the ride quality that the Alcazar has to offer. This one goes a notch further. On ruts, on joints, it just feels quite nice. And even if I am driving with, say, an empty car, it still feels quite nice. There is no wallowy feel at speed. There's no floaty feel at highway speeds. So overall, it feels quite nice, quite well put together. And when you're out on the bad roads, like I just went over a rumbler patch, and you hardly heard it inside the cabin. So the suspension setup is actually quite good. With a full house, it gets even better.
Let's sum it up then. The design is polarizing in my opinion and doesn't wow the audience as the Seltos did, nor does it have the grand presence of the Carnival, and that could hurt the Carens' prospects when compared to the Innova, Safari or the XUV700. It does miss out on some usable features here and there, but it pips the Alcazar and some of the other 3-row offerings with its space and the 3rd-row comfort. It also secures the cabin with a long list of standard safety features, and the more sophisticated cabin sets it apart from the other MPVs. So if you are the rare kind who are considering an MPV over an SUV in this price bracket, the Carens certainly deserves your attention.
We did ask you to send most of your queries, and most of them have been answered by Rohit. In this review, there's a longer version on our YouTube channel, and there's a separate video answering each and every question on Instagram as well. You can go through that in case we missed out on anything. Let's get Bert on the show.
Hi
Hi,
guys,
Bert.
good evening. Hi Sohini. So today
Bert.
I'm the only one on the show, and Rohit isn't around.
Yes, Rohit had to go somewhere emergency, but he'll be back next week with us anyway. We still have quite a few questions on the Carens. I mean, this is a car which has got a lot of eyeballs right now.
Well, it does. It's a fairly. I think it's in everyone's kind of radar. Everyone's kind of trying to see what the Carens is all about and what it kind of offers. It's a Kia at the end of the day, and Kia has done pretty well with the Seltos and the Sonnet, both very attractive cars, good packages overall, lots of features, lots of comfort, very refined styling, very aggressive styling also for that matter, in both of those cases. And in that sense, offering a three-row package at a more affordable price band makes a lot of sense. Or at least is a fairly attractive proposition. And what we are expecting to see in pricing. I guess we got to wait for another few more weeks before Kia launches the Carens and comes out of that in the market. But I guess the pricing would be somewhere close to where the Alcazar is at this point in time. Maybe in the same league as the Seltos, if not more affordable than that. Let us see what kind of positioning Kia wants to put the Carens in. But I think it will be a very very strong competitor for those who want to move up ahead of products like the XL6 or even for that matter want to graduate from the Ertiga and go into a slightly larger MPV-ish or the three-row vehicle. The tricky part over here the tricky part over here is the XUV 700, and that being, the one chink in the Karen's armor. I think that is going to be very tricky. Kia will have to figure out how to price it just so that they can, divert attention away from the XUV 700. The XUV 700 has got a fair number of bookings as well.
Bhargava, in fact, has asked an interesting question. How is it that Rohit was able to fit comfortably in the back row, the third row of the Carens? That means Kia have downsized the Carnival.
Well, yes, that was the joke I was sharing with a few of the guys at Kia as well, and saying that while I do like the interiors of the Carens and it's quite an impressive vehicle in that sense, the Carnival is something that I have set my heart on. But yes, the design of the Carens is such that the third row essentially has a lot more space. In fact, little more space than what you get in the Alcazar. Uh, at least this is perception at this point in time. We haven't really measured it out to see how much of a difference is there between these two vehicles. But having said that, it is a fairly spacious area of the cabin to be in. Ingress egress is very easy, very simple. It's got a large doorway, so we can get into the car. You've got that one touch tumble down seat, which gives you easy access to that third row. What I do like is on that C pillar. Uh, Kia has also put these inserts, these grooves in the inside the pillar where you can, hold on, which you can hold on to as you're either climbing into the cabin or even while you're exiting the cabin. So all of this makes it a fairly easy, or rather a nice place to be in. Full size adults, yes, they can sit in there quite comfortably. I tried that myself, and it was quite easy. It was quite comfortable in that sense. Would I recommend it for a long journey? Still no. But if you have to do it within urban, if you just had to move people within urban limits for that matter, I think this is possibly one of the most comfortable third row that you get in the segment. But makes up for a very interesting comparison sometime soon in the future between the XV700, the Carens, and the Alcazar, all three row SUV, MPV ish kind of a thing. So let's see where that goes.
But Mayur is saying if only the wheelbase is longer than the Alcazar, why should he choose the Carens?
Well, it will depend. If you like what Kia has to offer in terms of products, then that's one of the reasons why you would go in for the Carens. Uh, I do like the cabin of the Carens. I think it's a very attractive cabin and very attractive place to be in. I do like Rohit mentioned in the story, there is a tremendous amount of detail, attention to detail spent on this car, and those are only visible once you get up close, once you're inside that cabin, or up close on the exteriors of the car. On the whole, I think it's a brilliant, well thought out car. I do like some touches. Some touches I still don't like. I don't appreciate them as yet. But I do think there is a lot of practicality. There is a lot of practicality within this cabin. This is possibly too much for that matter that Kia has tried to offer. And I don't know why they do this. In fact, they did this first with the Seltos, where they had about 16 or 18 different variants that consumers could choose from. And now in the Carens, the number of features that they've put into that car, and I'm not talking about just features in terms of technology in that sense, but just the convenience bits is just tremendous. Like I mentioned, the C pillar, the grip where you can kind of easily climb in and climb out of the Carens is brilliant. Is a very well thought feature. The fact that you've got this small vent on the dashboard. It's just a small groove where air comes out of from the air conditioning system as well. But that groove has been designed in such a way that you can put air freshener, one of those with the small clip-on with those air fresheners. You can just insert it over there, and that vent will allow air to pass through and flow into the cabin. So it's not just then that diffuser doesn't become a static one. There is air blowing through it. So that ventilation is happening at the same time. So small things like this, I think, were absolutely brilliant. Even the cup holders. Even the cup holders have got you can put cool air through them if you've got a Coke bottle of Coke or something of that sort. That when you place it in the cup holder, and it will stay cool because there's ventilation, there is air flowing into that, which maintains temperature in the cup holder in the center console armrest. So small things like this, the attention to detail is immense. I think it's a brilliant job done overall. Kia's really thought about how to add a lot of utility in the currents, and in that sense, it's a phenomenal package. How much of it will get used, and this is the conversation that I had here also, is that how much of this will actually get utilized by consumers. That is a big if. So I'm hoping that they're able to get out several variants, maybe with a mix and match of various features and in them, because then it will allow a lot of consumers to decide and choose that they want certain features in their car, they don't want certain features in the car, so what they should go with and what makes the best choice for them. I think that it would be a smart plan to offer more variants on the Carens as well, and leave the choice up to consumers.
All right. Nitin Joshua wants to know which is better petrol engine for people movers, higher displacement naturally aspirated like the ones found in the Alcazar, or lower displacement turbo engine like the one found in the Alcazar.
Just to give you a quick example, I think the naturally aspirated engines feel far more linear where top build-up is concerned. Having said that, most of the modern engines, also for that matter, the turbo petrols for that matter, you don't really get the sense of that turbo lag that is there. They're very quick. Most of these are variable geometry turbochargers, and they spool up very quickly, so you don't feel that lag any longer. But I mean, I would anyways recommend, if it's a people mover that you're looking for, always a diesel in that sense. In which case, maybe the XUV doesn't really fit into that bill, but it has got it has got 3 rows of seats, and becomes the best option. Otherwise, it's also got a fantastic petrol and a diesel powertrain. It would be a very good choice for moving people around. The Carens and the Alcazar, not too bad either. But yeah, if I had to put the ball, if I had to put it, I would assume at this point in time, and I'm just saying this just from the top of my head, we haven't really compared them as of now, but I think the XUV 700 would be a very strong contender, and especially with its petrol engines.
I'm guessing Sorry, what do you
Sorry,
say?
the other thing, the other thing I think Joshua has asked is, do hope I answered that part as well, which is whether it's a naturally aspirated engine or a turbocharged. Most modern contemporary turbocharged engines, just keep in mind that also turbocharged. These turbocharged engines have got lower displacement in that sense. They make power and torque outputs are much higher. In some cases, that torque output comes at a little higher RPM as well. That could be a challenge. What you need to do is read the specs, or at least drive the car and understand at what RPM is the turbocharger kicking in. Otherwise, for most purposes, the turbocharged engines work much nicer.
Okay, here's a question from Shantanu. I think he's talking about the Carens. Do you think these features they have added are of the long-lasting quality?
Yeah, I don't see a issue with the quality of these features, because what they've done essentially is scooped out bits, added a few bits into the regular design in that sense. So they aren't fit on or bolt on kind of parts in that sense. So yes, they will last, they will work. They have a natural flow to things, to what they have to execute for that matter. There is very little that would actually go wrong with them. in that sense. So yes, I do think that most of these features that Kia has added on the Carens, they are well built, they're good, reliable products. But anyway, I mean, only time will tell us whether they actually are reliable or not.
Dr. Sachin Suryavanshi wants to know, will the Carens fulfill his expectations? He is using a Honda City since 2012 and he is used to the comfort and driving dynamics of the city. Will Carens give him the same experience?
Well, Dr. Sachin, absolutely not. The Carens will not give you the same experience as the Honda City. It's a completely different product. It has a different character to it, for that matter. But the driving dynamic, and especially where driving dynamics are concerned, the Honda City is certainly better than the Carens. Keep in mind, again, it's a sedan, so you're looking at a looking at a lower center of gravity, because of which the dynamics are significantly better than what you would get in the Carens. You definitely get that sense of understeeriness. You get a little bit of body roll in the Carens, also because it's that tall boy design kind of a structure. And in that sense, you can't really replace where driving character is concerned. You really can't replace what the Honda City has to offer with the Carens. But having said that, again, the Carens is not too bad. I drove it around. I didn't push it around too hard, for that matter, because this isn't the kind of vehicle that you're looking for dynamics from. For that, you want a safe, comfortable, confident, and secure vehicle, seven multiple seater, for that matter. And that is where the options are. That's where your priority should be. Do you want that kind of additional space? Do you want those three rows of seats? And then, after having put all of your passengers inside, do you want comfortable, safe, confident dynamics? That's what you should be asking. That's what you should be looking for. Not looking for a more sportier, or the more dynamic character in that sense. Yes, this will do all the things that you wanted to do otherwise, while you have your family inside, whether you have your friends inside, you still do it all safely. And in that sense, it's comfortable. Keep in mind, Rohit also said this: the suspension has been tweaked and tuned. It feels a lot nicer than I would say a lot nicer, but definitely feels better than what I experienced in Seltos, even for that matter, the Sonnet.
All right, here Dilip Kumar has written, Kia has designed the Carens like a great package, but in spite of having many goodies inside, can Carens get 5 or 4 star rating if put through the test?
Well, I'm not sure, Dilip. I can't say whether it will or will not. That will depend on what kind of structure it has, or rather, at least what is the rigidity of the structure, what is the strength of the structure. It gives you the full complement of airbags that you would want across, and will have this across various variants as well. So, where active safety is concerned, yes, it will have all of those features. The passive safety is concerned, I'm not entirely sure. Will the cash structure survive and keep the integrity of the cabin intact? I'm not sure until and unless it goes in for a crash test. At that point, let's see what happens. So fingers crossed. At some point, Global NCAP may take this car for a test and just let us know what happens to it.
But Apurv wants to know, is the Carens built on a monocoque or body on trim? How is the body roll and dynamics?
It's a monocoque at the end of the day. Again, similar platform to what the Seltos and the Sonnet are. Not much different in that sense. The body roll and dynamics. Okay, like I just mentioned this about the dynamics. The body roll also fairly well controlled. The suspension to me felt a little on the stiffer side, in the sense that you get great ride quality out of it. Body roll is very very well controlled within that. Despite that, the longer wheelbase, you don't get a wishy-washy ride quality or dynamic ability. It's quite well sorted out again. But again, let me emphasize: this is a three-row vehicle. A three-row. I'm not going to call it an SUV. I'm not going to call it an MPV or an RV. I'm not really sure what category it would fit into. But as a three-row vehicle, for what it has to do, you're not really going to be pushing it around corners and trying to get to someplace in a hurry. You're not going to be using this as an ambulance, have a siren buzzing and trying to rush to traffic and into the hospitals. But yeah, as a vehicle, for what it has to do, what it has to achieve, it's quite capable.
Sunil Prasad says his Polar White S400D has a PPF on it. However, he wants to change its color to emerald green by a peelable paint job. Are there any issues in the long term related to peelable paint jobs?
Well, none whatsoever, Sunil. None whatsoever. They could perfectly fine putting it on a peelable thing. You could just do the vinyl wrap, and that would probably solve your problems. And that would be the easiest thing to do, rather than going in for the paint job, which may be a little more expensive because there's a little more labor concerned in that. But just the vinyl wrap should be a good enough option. You can get a multitude of color choices and designs right now. So I'd recommend doing that. I think 3M, someone does those jobs. They're probably one of the best in terms of quality, the quality is concerned. So possibly do that itself. I do hope you select
Right.
a nice color for your 400D though.
All right. Dilip Kumar wants to know, as Mahindra is facing high pressure with deadlines, will Mahindra be able to compensate for all these with their future launches? And could they reduce the wait time and push the delivery times?
Well, I don't think that is going to happen anytime soon. Dilip, keep this in mind, as there is already a crunch where deliveries are concerned. There are semiconductor shortages. There are other supply chain constraints as well, which are unexpected because of the various lockdowns and various other challenges happening across the world, or India for that matter as well. Production supplies are not optimized at this point in time. So yes, there are delays. Mahindra is facing the brunt of it because their delays are enormous. From what I hear, some customers are having to wait for almost a year, maybe even longer than that, to get their product, whether it's the Thar or the XV700. And this delay, the deadline isn't coming down anytime soon. This is still going to take some more time. Keep in mind, recently there was, I think, just a couple of weeks ago, there was another earthquake, and in Taiwan, and some more another of these semiconductor factories had a major issue, and they had to cut back production for a couple of 2 3 weeks. That means there is another setback coming up as well. Will it really affect the Indian market? We're not sure at this point in time. But those delays are not going to go away anytime soon. Are they going to reduce it? No. Are they going to push the delivery times? No. Production is just not up to scale right now.
All right. Aman Kumar wants to know, if Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6 come to India at a premium price, do you think they will still have a market when and if Tesla sets foot in India?
When and if Aman Tesla sets foot in India, this is like a really long term plan. I mean, I hope that all the gray that I've got in my beard doesn't turn. I mean, it doesn't turn fully white, and I don't become one of those platinum ones, but before Tesla actually sets foot in India. But Elon Musk, I'm not entirely sure what his intent is and what he wants to do. He just keeps dilly dallying and asking for concessions. I don't think, this is my personal opinion, but I don't see why they need a concession, especially when other manufacturers are doing the same job and are doing probably a better job at it in the country as well. You want to come down to India, set up a manufacturing plant. The government is giving you all the options, all the benefits for that. Set up CKD facility at the very least. Produce over here, sell over here. That's what some of the other manufacturers are getting into as well. Keep in mind, Mercedes-Benz, for that matter, is now getting into this far more aggressively. And within a few years, you will see those electrics being manufactured, assembled over here in India. At the very least, there's an assembly operation in place. Mercedes-Benz can invest that kind of money, effort, time into this whole project. Then I don't see why Tesla cannot, and why do they need these concessions? Keep Tesla out of the picture. To be honest, I just, in fact, recently, I think it was yesterday at some conference, that the head of customs and duties, in fact, just clearly mentioned that if Tesla wants to come down to India, build here in India, and there will be no concessions made whatsoever. It's one part. Uh, will the Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6 have a market? Absolutely. Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6 will certainly have a market. Will it be? Keep in mind the Ioniq 6 already. Hyundai is making some major breakthroughs with the Ioniq in global markets as well. I do believe they're already breathing down Tesla's neck in European markets already. If they've not already gone ahead of Tesla's numbers for that matter. I think in January they were one of the hottest selling models in Europe. It's a great looking SUV, electric SUV, and I think if it comes down to India, I'm hoping that Hyundai, at whichever point it comes down to India, Hyundai will be able to assemble it here. And even if they don't, even if they offer it a premium, keep in mind that premium won't be as high as, or at least as expensive as what a Tesla would cost. Tesla would cost upwards of 80 to 90 lakh rupees. Even if Hyundai had to come down with the Ioniq or Kia with the EV6, I think I would see it more at a 50 lakh rupee price band. 50 to 60 lakhs is where I would see these SUVs, not more than that. So I think there is nothing that would really affect sales of Hyundai or Kia EVs for that matter. Nothing is really going to take away from that. They will continue to do business. The only thing that we need to see, or rather we would want to see, is that they get in more numbers. What happens with Kia Hyundai, or at least what happened with Hyundai in the past, is that they had limited number of kits to sell. Possibly they could have done a lot better, but this is, getting in 500 or 500 odd SUVs, electric SUVs to into the Kona doesn't make sense. Pursue that project, push it harder. I'm sure they sold off all of the Konas. But I'm sure there definitely is a lot more interest today than there was 2 years ago for the Kona. There are a lot more people who want an electric vehicle, and even if it means, I mean, MG is doing tremendously well with the ZS EV. They're all sold out, and they're consistently getting in newer kits and well selling those out as well. So Hyundai certainly has a case ahead for them. So yes, I do hope Hyundai and Kia come down very quickly with the next generation of electric vehicles. What we do know is the Kona is on its way again. The new Kona is again on its way over here to India also. I'm hoping we see some information on that this year in 2022. But fingers crossed, it could be the Kona, it could be INX 5. It depends whatever comes down. But it will really do well.
All right. But Bala Surya wants to know how to manage turbo lag in bumper to bumper traffic.
Well, very tough to actually maintain turbo lag. If you've got an automatic without a manual Tiptronic function, for that matter, it's quite difficult. You just have to live with the turbo lag. There's nothing you can really do, to be honest. You could put in one of those remaps, and it might take away a little bit of the turbo lag, but it could also affect efficiency, for that matter. If you've got a Tiptronic, a shifter, then the only way is to shift it to manual mode and then drop down a gear, come down to first to the second, so you're able to rev faster, higher, and get out of the turbo, get the turbo spinning much faster. That's the only way you can negate turbo lag well in bumper traffic.
But Vidya wants to know what is the best automatic car for entry level. He has a budget of around 6 lakh rupees, up to 6 lakhs.
Budget up to 6 lakh rupees. I think the better options would, or at least one of the better options would be the new Celerio that comes with the EMT. So I guess that would be one of the choices that you would look at. I'm not exactly sure if the Kiger or the Magnite. The Magnite may just fall in within that price bracket as well. I'll have to check this up. I don't know off the top of my head. I do believe the Magnite is with the AMT transmission should also fall in that. It will be 6 lakhs or thereabouts ex showroom, and then possibly another lakh and a half. Assume that for registration and insurance and all the other documentation that need to get done. But these are two of the better options in the market at this point in time, with them.
But here's another question from Dr. Suryavanshi. He wants to know what is the fate of the batteries of the electric vehicles in terms of the disposal? Does it lead to more pollution? And what's the policy from auto companies?
Well, auto companies don't have a policy as such. Okay, because once an electric vehicle is sold to a consumer, it is largely the consumer's responsibility. So what is, however, as a moral, as far as the moral compasses go, well, what they try to do is they're trying and partnering with various companies, various startups, various technology service providers to kind of do something with these batteries after life. But afterlife of these batteries is really a long, long distance away. We're talking about batteries that degrade over a period of time, let's say about 12 years, 15 years, and then have to be utilized for something else. At that point of time, also they're not completely depleted of their charge. Even at that point in time, they can continue to be used for other purposes. Now, one of the most common purposes that they're being used for is to store energy, and which is then sent back into the grid. So instead of having other solutions to this, it's a very simple solution to just use all these batteries from older electric vehicles, stack them up, build kind of a farm where all of the energy is then stored into these batteries, and as and when required, it goes back again. It gets back into the system, into the grid as well. So that's largely what happens with batteries that have finished or other finished the life inside an electric vehicle. Then there is still further applications for them post use in an electric vehicle. However, there really isn't a clear case as to what happens or disposal of these electric batteries when life entirely finishes. Now, that is a tricky one that we still don't have very, very clear answers on.
But Sonam Sering wants to know what will be the price of the Toyota Hilux.
So I'm saying, well, very tough one. Now let's look at it like this. I was just having the discussion with somebody else from the auto industry today, and we're trying to speculate on the pricing for the Hilux, and that's also because they're also probably looking at bringing down another pickup into the market very, very soon. Not very soon, but it will take them some time. But here's what will happen, I guess, is that it needs to fit in between somewhere. We would like to see it fit in somewhere between the somewhere around the Innova pricing, if not more affordable than that. But it's the same platform as the Innova and the Fortuner, and prices for that, even the Innova, are fairly expensive at this point in time, upwards of 30 lakhs almost, with the Fortuner going on upwards of 40 lakh rupees. Now this the Hilux is a CKD. And I'm speculating. All of this is speculation right now. I'm just kind of trying to figure out and fit the dots and put pieces into this equation. The Hilux is a CKD, so it attracts lesser duties. Secondly, it comes in from Thailand, where we've got a free trade agreement with them as well, so it makes it a little more affordable. Toyota can then competitively price this, but will they be, because it is a CKD, will they be able to bargain basement prices on the Hilux compared to what they're already building here in India? I don't think that is going to happen. It will possibly find a space in between, somewhere in between where the Innova and the Fortuner is, if not higher than the Fortuner, because again, like I said, it's imported, even as as a knockdown kit. It's still important to the country, so I would expect those prices will be expensive. My estimate, and I was actually, I'm just going to go onto my Instagram profile, because I did mention this to somebody else. I was having a conversation with someone on Instagram, and my bet, somebody bet with me on this, and I bet somewhere between 28 to 32 lakhs for yeah, for the Hilux. And well, the on the other side, the guy, this friend, not friend, but one of you guys out there itself, said the pricing would be upwards of possibly around 40 lakh rupees. So let's see what it is. What we do know right now, which will come up in the news, is that the Hilux is sold out. I'm not sure what the
Yeah.
numbers are. I'm not going to speculate on those numbers, but again, we've now hearing all sorts of conversations happening and lots of rumors flying around, and may possibly not be very very high numbers. Toyota is not disclosing what those numbers were at this point in time. I'm not sure if they want to just keep it as a surprise, or just too embarrassed about the kind of numbers that they're selling with the Hilux. What I am hoping is that the Hilux can be priced competitively enough to make enough of to create enough of a noise in the market and get a lot more people to buy pickup trucks in that sense. But anyway, fingers crossed. Let's see. I'm not sure. My bet 28 to 32 lakhs, maybe 40 lakhs plus also.
All right, we'll take one last question before we jump right into the news. Sunil Prasad wants to know, does Honda have a future in India anymore, considering there hasn't been a new product except the fifth generation City in the last 5 years, plus their sales have been falling considerably.
Well, Sunil, yes, they definitely have a future. Keep in mind, this is one of those companies, like most Japanese companies, they will be around for a very, very long time. And for them, what matters is that even if one product does extremely well, they're quite pleased with it. What we do know is that there are a few more products in the pipeline. They will be coming out shortly. We may hear some announcements from Honda's side this year. Fingers crossed that nothing happens to them, or nothing untoward happens to their plans for India in this year, for that matter. But what we've seen is that, like Toyota, for instance, I mean, Toyota is a two-product, team, and of course, just actually one product racehorse. I mean, this is the Innova. The Fortuner gets in a little bit more bonus, for that matter, into the revenue, but Toyota survives in this country largely because of what they do with the Innova, and to some extent with the Etios. To some extent, fleet sales have kind of helped them survive with that space as well. And of course, now what they're coming out in through their association with Suzuki, where Brezza and the Baleno, the urban cruiser and all the rest of the products are lined up for the Indian market. But having said that, the other Japanese, which is Honda, also has similar intentions. They're not ready to get out of this country as of yet. We do know that they are already working on certain products for India, products that have already been actually developed, and will announcements will be forthcoming very very shortly. What we also do know is that there is a pipeline of newer products for India for the future also. But again, this environment, nobody can say who survives, who does not. We just have to wait and watch and see how Honda's futures in India will shape up.
All right, we'll just run through the news. In fact, there's quite a bit from this week. Like Bert mentioned, after just 2 weeks of starting the pre-bookings, Toyota Kirloskar Motor has temporarily shut bookings of the Hilux, citing excessive demand as one of the reasons, and many reasons hurting the supply at the same time. We'll update you when the bookings reopen here on Overdrive, so watch out for that as well. Prices for the facelifted Q7 were announced yesterday. The SUV is available in two trims. The Premium Plus starts at 79.99 lakh rupees ex-showroom, and the Technology trim can be bought for 88.33 lakh rupees ex-showroom. We've recently driven this SUV, so you can revisit the detailed review on our YouTube channel or even on IGTV. Talking about the union budget presented by the finance minister, most pertinent requests from the automobile sector, like incentives for new EV adoption, tax cut, and revised duty structure, were not addressed during the session. Instead, the union government will adopt a battery swapping policy to encourage the usage of electric vehicles and reach carbon emission objectives as part of its strategy to transition to green energy. When combined with interoperability standards, the policy would compel EV manufacturers to produce vehicles with standardized, easily removable batteries, lowering the cost of EV ownership by eliminating the need to buy a new battery, which is now the most costly component of an EV. The impact of this policy will be limited to certain players in the sector and is unlikely to bring any big change in the Indian electric mobility space at a quick pace. The FM has also announced allocation of 20,000 crore for infrastructure projects to be used for expansion of national highways across India by 25,000 kilometers in the next 2 years. This will eventually boost demand for commercial vehicles. You will also soon be able to upgrade your BS6 petrol automobiles with CNG kits, which can save fuel costs by 40% to 50%. That's also been in the news. And Aston Martin has introduced what it's calling the fastest and the most powerful SUV in the world. The DBX707 is powered by by a 4.4 liter engine. It has been retuned to produce 157 PS more power and 200 Newton meters more than the DBX model. All that increased power means that the new Aston Martin DBX707 is expected to touch 100 kmph in just 3.3 seconds and will continue accelerating till it reaches its top speed of 319 kmph. The Aston Martin DBX707 also features a new race start mode, which prioritizes off the line performance and is available in GT Sport and Sport Plus mode. In the next few years, Foxconn, the Taiwanese company that makes Apple's iPhones in India, plans to start producing electric vehicles in the nation for Fisker Inc., which is led by Henrik Fisker, the renowned designer of models such as BMW Z8 and the Aston Martin DB9. Will first establish a technology center in Hyderabad with a staff of over 300 engineers, and then in partnership with Foxconn, they will be producing electric global vehicle pair in India within 2 years. Apart from India, the business, which is a creator of asset-light electric vehicles, has outsourced its manufacture to the Taiwanese electronics giant Foxconn. Ocean Fisker Inc.'s first model SUV is planned for a global introduction in November and will be imported as a CBU in India. And you will have to now shell out 50,000 rupees more than before if you fancy having a new Triumph Trident 660 in your garage. The introductory price is now 7.45 lakh rupees ex showroom. Even with this price increase, the Trident 660 is still the most affordable triple cylinder naked street bike you can buy in the country today. So that's all the news that we had. We'll just go through. Wow. Okay, we'll just go through all your questions again. Actually, someone had asked us, but I'll look through who had asked us the question, that how much will the DBX 707 cost?
Your guess is as good as mine. I'm not entirely sure what the 007 would cost, but we'll have an answer for you shortly. Just follow our Twitter handles or our Instagram handles, and we have that information for you very soon.
Ashish
Yeah,
Agarwal, you're saying
Thanmay
you
Sai
wait,
Krishnan,
can't
Thanmay Sai
wait for the
Krishnan.
Kia Carens. Ashish, I just want to remind you that we just played the Kia Carens review. It's up on our YouTube channel. It's also up on Instagram, so you can go check that out. Sorry, but what were you saying?
No, that I found the question that you were asking about. Thanmay Sai Krishnan asked us that query, but Thanmay, we'll come
Okay.
back to you very shortly about this. Just keep an eye out on our social media handles, and we'll have that information for you soon.
Manish Pandey Bert has asked, why don't all tire companies provide smart tires like JK tires with tire pressure monitoring systems?
Well, of course, they do offer all this because that's now something that comes mandatory with all cars. So all tire companies don't provide it off the shelf, for that matter. The sensors, the pressure sensors, are fitted onto your wheels, and that comes in from the manufacturers and not necessarily tire companies, for that matter. What tire companies do, and this makes a lot of sense for. Is they some the smart tires that come in essentially have an RFID chip in them, and this allows fleet owners, for instance, to keep track of their vehicles, commercial vehicle space especially, because there are lots of trucks that need to be that are moving around the country, and those need to be monitored. People need to evaluate and see where those vehicles are, what's happening, is there any downtime on them, have the trucks broken, if the trucks break down, where exactly they broken down. All this kind of information can then be sourced from the positioning of that RFID chip. So that's the only thing that most of these tire companies do, tire manufacturers do, is that they put in a RFID chip into the tires, and that allows fleet owners to manage and maintain their vehicles, at least to when they're on the move. But more smarter than that, really, there really isn't anything that comes in. Like I said, the TPMS system that comes fitted onto the wheel. The sensors are fitted onto the wheel, not essentially on the tire. And that's how, even if you change the tire, you will still have the TPMS, the tire pressure monitoring system, working regularly, consistently. Can't hear you, Sohini.
Sorry. Ankur Jain wants to know which is the best petrol car under 10 lakh rupees.
Wow, tough one. There are lots of choices, Ankur, under 10 lakh rupees. Very tough to say. There's a lot of options for that matter. Good options, contemporary options would be either the Kiger or the Kiger would be a good option. Good mix over there. Then you've got the new Celerio, another good option. It'll all depend on what you actually want, Ankur. If you can be more specific, are you looking for a hatchback? Are you looking for an SUV-ish body style? Are you looking for an MPV? What exactly is it that you're looking for? And then I can possibly recommend something to you.
But
Yes.
here's a question for you. Have you guys stopped publishing the Overdrive magazine?
No, we haven't, Bernard. We have not stopped publishing the Overdrive magazine. It still comes out month on month. Uh, and well, you can get it. You can get the digital copy on through the website. But I'm not entirely sure if publishing in the print issue is readily available. And there's a big problem with that because a lot of the newsstands have stopped keeping magazines at large. They really this is a big concern for us as well. A lot of the airports, for that matter, very few of them, for that matter. I think Delhi, perhaps Bombay, and maybe Bangalore, for that matter, still stack automotive magazines and general interest magazines as well. But very few places have now kept magazines. So what we do is we look for subscriber bases, and if you're really interested in reading print edition of the magazine, then one of the best ways to do that is to subscribe to it and make sure that it reaches you at your home. Or you could get the digital edition if you're into reading the digital editions of publications.
All right. Dilip Kumar wants to know, why is Tata not launching the Hexa again? Because currently they have everything like engine tech and are able to design its interiors better than they did earlier and can launch it against the Innova Krista.
Well, Dilip, they probably are looking at that segment as well. Keep in mind, Tatas now are diversifying very strongly into various segments, not just the ICE, but also with electric vehicles for that matter. So there is development work happening in with the MPV body style. Will the Hexa come out again? Quite possibly, it may not come out as the Hexa, it may come out as something else. They will offer that. But again, there is a price conscious buyer for Tata products at the end of the day. Some of the manufacturers in India, especially Maruti and Tata for that matter, have not been able to break that barrier and go beyond a particular price point. So it doesn't really make sense if the numbers aren't there. Keep in mind, when the Hexa came out, it was a fairly expensive product. And though it was, I think, one of the finer vehicles that Tata Motors has made, absolutely brilliant in terms of build quality, in terms of the space, in terms of the design, in terms of features. It was an absolutely brilliant product. It still is one of the best products that Tata Motors has been manufactured. I don't think there were a lot of takers because of the price point it's positioned at. Going above 15 lakh rupees, people really question whether they want a Tata product at that price bracket. Now, with the Harrier coming in, of course, things have changed. People are a little more accepting of Tata products at a more premium price point. Otherwise, it was just everything below that 12, 13 lakh rupee price bracket. That's where Tata Motors really found its bread and butter. Above that, it's been a challenge for manufacturers like Tata Motors, or even for that matter Maruti, to really break that 12 lakh or 13 lakh rupee ceiling and go beyond that with the product. They really aren't any takers. At that price point, people then start questioning whether they want a Tata product or whether they want to go for one of the Korean products from Hyundai or Kia or anything else that is available in the market. And that is a bit of a challenge. That perception is very difficult to break once you've kind of positioned yourself as an affordable car maker. It's very difficult to move away from that and say that I can also make premium cars, but at a far higher price point. So that's essentially where the challenge is. If Tata Motors believes that there are consumers who would accept and would buy these products, keep in mind you do need scale. Tata Motors needs to make hundreds of thousands of vehicles, and they need consumers who would consume those hundreds of thousands of vehicles for them to actually make this a viable business model. Otherwise, just as isn't a business case for a product like the Hexa any longer.
All right, Vishnu Desai, you want to know when can we expect the new BMW X3 review? Rohit's driven it, so we just have to edit it and we'll get you the review next week for sure. But Lux wants to know, please suggest if the XUV 300 AMT is a good choice for hilly terrain.
Well, yes, it's a good choice, Laksh. Keep in mind again, at the end of the day, all you're getting, the only difference is you need to monitor your driving style, make a few changes over there, preempt. When you're in the hills, preempt if you're climbing or on flat ground, and downshift before you actually start climbing, so that you're in the torque band, you're in the power band, and you're never running short of breath. That's the only way you can manage this. So with the AMT, for that matter, use the manual shifter and get down. Otherwise, if you're just using the automatic, there really isn't much else that you can do. Does it feel like would there be a bit of lag, or it would be a little slow? Yes, I've not been very fond of AMT gearboxes for that matter. I've experienced that kind of lag in the city also, for that matter, on normal plains, flat roads. There is a bit of lag, but the only way to do that is to then start fiddling around with the throttle and getting onto it. It becomes a little disconcerting, a little uncomfortable, because you've got this slightly seesawish effect. You don't know when the transmission will shift gears up or down. You don't know when that is going to happen exactly, at which point it will happen. With most torque converter automatic gearboxes, you kind of are able to predict that yes, now this is going to downshift or this is going to upshift. But with an AMT, that's a little bit tricky. It just takes a little bit of time to kind of understand at which point those shifts happen and if they're consistently happening at the same point. But yes, you could offset it also. I mean, getting into manual mode and just using it yourself could possibly help. But if it's just pure AMT, no manual mode at all whatsoever, then yes, I do agree with you that it may not be the best choice for hilly terrain. So, any your microphone is off. Mhm.
Kevin has asked too many questions, and yes, he has been spamming. So we'll take his question. When is the Honda City Hybrid going to launch in India?
Kevin, your guess is as good as mine. Now, we don't know when exactly this is going to happen. Uh, yeah, it was expected to happen in February 2022, but we haven't got any intimation from them as of yet. So I'm expecting a delay for at least another couple of months before the city hybrid comes into the country. Uh, how successful it will be, I'm not entirely sure at this point in time also, but efficiency is what they're looking at as principal, I would say USP. So it should, give out, and Hondas have been fairly efficient for that matter, and have will only enhance that a little more. But I do believe they are delayed at this point in time by almost a month, if not longer.
But what are your views about the Q3 facelift and expected price and best alternatives?
Um, See, I've been very impressed with the Q3 since a really long time, to be honest, because it's a compact size, it's a great SUV. I've enjoyed driving it in almost every condition, every terrain, at various altitudes across the country. I've driven it up to Ladakh, and it's performed brilliantly, far better. I, in fact, enjoyed it a lot more than I enjoyed driving the Q5. Q5 definitely feels a little bulkier, doesn't feel as agile or as nimble as the Q3 does. Q3 is something far more dynamic. It's literally a fairly large hatchback on stilts with a lot more ground clearance, without but which don't compromise the dynamics of that vehicle. So flickability is very impressive, drivability is very impressive. Overall, I think it's a great choice. Are there any alternatives to it? Yes, the X3 is another is an alternative to this. If you're looking for something that is equally dynamic for that matter, then the X3 is the only one that you've got where dynamics are concerned. But the other option is Mercedes-Benz's. Actually, I would say rather than the Mercedes-Benz, I would say the XC40 would be a good choice over here. That's also another very, I'd say, a far more refined, smoother, more luxurious package overall. And of course, let's not forget the stylish package also. Looks great, looks wonderful. I think these are the alternatives that you've got to Q3. The X3, if you're looking for more dynamism, the XC40 or that kind of that SUV. If you're looking for something a little more luxurious, a little more refined, a little more upmarket.
Gaurav Satvara wants to know, what about CNG and BS6 cars?
Gaurav, what exactly about CNG in BS6 cars? Is it a concern? I don't think so. Keep in mind, Tata has just shown us the Tiago, the iCNG, and it works extremely well. It's quite fluid. There's literally no difference between when it's driving on CNG mode or on petrol. So I think in all respects, CNG works equally well. No concerns whatsoever. If there is something specific that you would want to know, just message us again and let us know, and I'll try my best to answer that as well, Gaurav.
KD Sangwan wants to know, which is the best SUV, Harrier or the XUV 700? Is there any plan for ADS in the Harrier?
Not as of now. There's no plans for any ADS in the Harrier. The XUV 700, I think, would be a slightly better product. It's over here again because you get the driver assistance system. The XUV 700 is a slightly better package at this point in time. Harrier is doing tremendously well because again it looks quite impressive. It's a very imposing design that they've got. Ride quality is comfortable. I'm not too fond of the way the dynamics are otherwise, or I'm not too fond of the way the engine performs. And it does feel a little cumbersome and heavy to drive the Harrier. Not as I would say as smooth or as easy as the XV700 is. And I think that's essentially where the XV700 is doing tremendously well, or the demand is there for it. Also, features inside the XV700, a lot more features in the XV700 over the Harrier. But that would be better. That would be a better choice. The XV700 any day. And yes, at some point in time, I do believe it has will come into the Harrier as well. Tata Motors will start offering it on their products also, not just the SUVs, maybe even the hatchbacks and the sedans as well. It's increasingly becoming a popular feature in cars, and it's also becoming a more affordable feature. So a lot more manufacturers are able to introduce driver assistance in their cars as well. So yes, you will see it. Maybe take them a year or so, or a little longer to develop it or to get it into the Harrier, or maybe it might just it might just be offered in entirely new SUV that might replace the Harrier.
Here's a very interesting question from Rajesh Khare. What is your take on airless tires? Do you think they could be a good fit for Indian roads?
Harish, we don't know whether airless tires would actually work in all conditions at this point in time. What from those who are making those tires, whether it's Michelin or various other manufacturers for that matter, what we do know is that they are quite competent on both on-road conditions, off-road conditions. It works brilliantly. Again, just gives you all the benefits of a regular tubeless tire for that matter. But because there is no air involved in this, you don't need to inflate those tires. There are no punctures. Well, that is one worry that goes out of the system. You don't have to be concerned about that. You don't also have to worry about having filled in overinflated your tires or underinflated your tires. So because of which you won't have blowouts on your tires as well. So all of those concerns are taken care of by LS tires. At the same time, LS tires are also prone to a lot more wear and tear. Essentially, if you're driving them on bad roads, we don't know what the integrity of the tire feels like. All we know is from manufacturer claims at this point in time is that these tires have got a fairly long life on them. But because the technology is new, also these will take a lot of time to become, or rather to permeate down to affordable segments. So it's a matter of just waiting and watching and seeing how they develop. But I do hope they're able to fulfill or at least meet all of the test criteria that various governments around the world, require. And once they're done with that, I guess we will see more of the airless tires coming up on passenger cars also.
Okay, this is your opinion. Ashish Agarwal wants to know, is wearing a mask in a personal car along with family or alone, does that make sense?
Ashish, I think a lot of the state governments have taken off that rule now. Maharashtra, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember this exactly, but I think in within Maharashtra also they do not mandate wearing a mask if you are sitting with your own family inside the car. No one should be able to stop you or fine you for that matter, because as long as your windows are shut, keep that in mind. So you have to make sure the windows of the car are shut, and that the icon is running, of course, but you need to make sure that the windows are shut. I also believe recently the government in Delhi also mentioned this, that if you are alone in your car, there isn't any need of wearing a mask if you are by yourself in your car. In fact, either the High Court or the Supreme Court was it ridiculed the need for wearing a mask in a car if you are by yourself. And he said that's an absolutely silly clause, and so a lot of places this has been taken off at this point in time.
All right. Badminton Blitz wants to know, should he buy a Kia or a Fortuner? Kia Carnival, I guess.
I'm hoping Blitz. That's the choice, the Carnival or the Fortuner. Um, da, 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 da. I would say, okay. Let's look at it like this. For everything else and for all other purposes, the Carnival is your best choice. If you're taking it off road and you do a bit of that as well, when you do a long distance journey to some place where you want to get out into the wilderness, and of course you definitely need something like the Fortuner. But for every other reason, I think the Carnival is probably the best product, one of the best products you could buy in the country today at a fairly affordable or a middling price bracket kind of a thing. Uh, I've been completely swamped by, or rather, completely, overwhelmed by what the Carnival has to offer. I think it's an absolutely brilliant product. I can't wait to see more manufacturers offering MPVs in that segment, especially. And there are a lot of other MPVs globally that are offered in that segment, because the utility is brilliant, the space is brilliant, the drivability of that product also is fantastic. It just doesn't feel like you're driving an MPV. That matter, it just feels like an everyday car, a regular car, and that is something that I love. And I think the Carnival, if that is a choice, then well, it ticks all of your boxes except for that off-road bit, where the Fortuner is the one one you should use.
Piyush Mathur wants to know, what is a better yet premium alternative to the X1?
What is a better yet premium alternative to the X1? The X3.
And then he
But
has to
yeah, I
watch
mean,
the review next week.
yeah, the X3 is one of those choices. If you want to upgrade, the X3 is a good choice. You also got the Q3 that will be coming up soon. You got the XC40. There are plenty of choices. I mean, if you want something a little more funkier, you want something a little more interesting, you want great driving dynamics, then I would recommend the Mini Countryman as well. Absolutely brilliant car. I'm not entirely sure if they've got kits of that and if they are able to deliver on time, but I do think that they're working around that as well. But that's a great option. Great ride quality, great dynamics, decent space, but it just looks so good. It just handles so well. I mean, it just doesn't feel like an SUV, Piyush. The Countryman, I would say, one of the better choices. Luxury refinement, if you want to upgrade, XC40-ish. But otherwise, if you just want to upgrade and you're happy with the BMW brand, then the X3 is something that you should be looking at as well.
Right. Kabir Advani wants to know, any new information on the Wagoner EV?
Well, Kabir, this is that that work. Not I would say Khali Pulao, but building castles in the air. Situation that we're seeing, we just it's just out of our reach, just right there, but not there as yet. And I'm hoping that Maruti definitely has something for us, because it's been almost about 2 or 3 years that we've seen development and seen the Wagoner EV running around on the roads, being tested and evaluated. And I do hope that Maruti comes out with the Wagoner EV this year. Finally, they have at least said that they are going to do something in the EV space. The Wagoner EV is the only thing there for them. I do believe that we should hear some announcements from them. Somewhere later this month, we are in fact heading to meet up with Maruti at the drive for the Baleno, and I'll come back to you with more information on that in a short time.
All right. Manish Pandey has a suggestion for our team. Sorry, but you were saying something?
Yeah, can you just give me a minute? I'm just gonna get up and come back again. Give me a second.
Yeah, sure. Mayur, until then, I will answer your question. I can't see what that question is, but you wanted to know about the books that you see right behind me. One is the Senna biography. It's penned by an F1 photographer, Keith Sutton, who was his personal photographer as well. And I bought it after the movie Senna had come out, and I was really fascinated and I wanted to know everything about the racer as well. So it's a really good read. And Kimi's biography was simply bought because I'm a huge Kimi fan. So I needed to know each and everything about him. So I went and bought that also. I love biographies. So if you're interested in Formula One, you should go ahead and buy one of these as well.
So Manish,
Bert is
Sanjay asked
back.
us one suggestion for Overdrive. How about having a OD
Yeah.
University tie-up for automobile-related courses, auto journalism, etc.? It'll be very useful for auto enthusiasts and all the auto companies. Well, Manish, it's a great suggestion. I'd love to, run a course someday, possibly, and teach at least budding journalists, at least those who are interested in automotive journalism, for that matter, what they can do and what they need to know, because that is, I think, absolutely essential these days. I'm just seeing too many uh, I mean, I just did this morning. In fact, I got a forward from somebody doing a review of a 22-inch wheel on a Mahindra Thar. I don't know how many of you all have also received that WhatsApp forward if you've just seen it. And the funny part about it was that the host was talking about how people call these low profile tires, and went on to say, how can you call these low profile tires? They cost 1 lakh rupees compared to the 30,000 for the other tires. So how can you call them low profile? They are high profile tires. Well, I mean, those kind of that kind of ignorance is something that we would love to correct. But it's absolutely essential, and I do believe that in this day and age, where there are so many people who think it's doing a review of a car is a piece of cake. I believe that a lot of them make very fundamental mistakes when they give out a review. A lot of them don't understand what they're actually talking about. I've seen this very often happen with most journalists. A lot of them, senior journalists also, for that matter, where they go around a farm in the dirt, trying to slide a car around rather, and they kick up a lot of dust, of course, and they call it oversteer or drifting. And essentially, that's not drifting. That is losing control, friends. That is you losing control. That is not you doing the right thing. That is when you've gone absolutely rubbish. You've gone and done the wrong thing, and just because it kicked up dust doesn't mean that you've done the right thing, or you've oversteered, or you've done a drift. Things like that. This is essentially about gaining knowledge. We've had the advantage of having a mentor who actually taught us, because to be fair, I mean, even I'm not an automotive journalist. I'm not a journalist by profession. I'm an engineer by profession, so I know a few of the nuances, at least when mechanicals are concerned, for that matter, the engineering bits are concerned. Journalism took me a long time to understand. Writing took even longer time to kind of get my hand on to a level where I think is acceptable today. But it's a time bound thing. The only way to learn this is essentially to join a publication where there are a few senior journalists, and there are a lot of senior journalists today out in the industry, and learn under them, because these are things that you can't really. There isn't really a course that I could teach you these things and these nuances at. And I think the best way to do this is to get along with a senior journalist who knows his stuff, and possibly learn from them. There are some very really good names in the industry, whether it's colleagues from our colleagues at Autocar, whether it's Hormas for that matter, whether it's Renuka, whether it's Sirish, who's been the next Overdrive editor, whether it's Yogendra Pratap, whether it's Adil Darkhanala, Bob for that matter, Vikrant. There's just quite a few of them out in the industry, very senior journalists, extremely well versed in what they do. And it's also because they do this day in, day out. Do understand that this is something where we're consistently learning something new every time. And the only way we learn this is, of course, we've been fortunate that we've had somebody who's told us what is to be done, and what we are doing, whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, and how these things need to be addressed, or how these things need to be corrected, what's the right way to do things, so that we get the right. I mean, it's only when you put in the right inputs you will get the right outputs. A lot of journalists, a lot of social media influencers I see, I mean, it's just the wrong inputs going in, and of course, because of that, you get the wrong output as well. So I think more than a university tie-up or an education or a course, a study course, I think mentoring is a far more important thing to do. I think that will be a lot more valuable for a lot of budding automotive journalists.
But it's a great idea. I like the idea, and thanks for pitching it to us, Manish. We'll definitely look into it. But Sujashish wants to know any update from Triumph about the Tiger 660 Sport.
Suresh, I wish I had that information from you, but what I can recommend is just drop a message to us on Instagram or OverDrive's handle or on our Twitter handle, and Rohit or Chris will update you with news on that. To be fair and to be honest, I'm not entirely abreast of what's happening in the two-wheeler world. But Rohit and Chris will be in a better position to answer this for you. Unfortunately, Rohit is not there today on the show. But you can definitely drop him a message on his Twitter handle, or you could drop a message on the Overdrive Twitter handle, and we will respond to that ASAP.
Ravi Singh wants to know the next upcoming C-Class SUV by Maruti and Toyota.
The next upcoming C segment SUV by Maruti and Toyota. Well, what we do know is that there is work going on the Vitara Brezza, not the Brezza, but the Vitara, the Grand Vitara and Vitara-ish kind of a thing. That's something that we could expect to see. Maybe even the Jimny. I'm hoping that something happens with them because they're already working on doing or rather making a five-door Jimny. Global markets, of course, a lot of the vehicles that are being made is the three-door version, and they will possibly come out with the five-door version, especially for markets like India. But again, all of this is just speculation at this point in time. At the time when the Jimny was unveiled globally, Maruti very clearly announced that they would not be interested in doing the Jimny for the Indian market simply because the numbers were extremely low. But having seen the kind of numbers that Thar has been able to generate, we do know that yes, there is certainly the potential of Maruti doing extremely well with the Jimny. Uh, Having said that, I don't think the Jimny has the same character or the same, how do I say, the visual appeal that the Thar has got. The Thar looks a lot more aggressive. I mean, all those Punjabi Munde out there, they love the Thar. I mean, it just even across the country for that matter. It's not just one regional bit, but across the country, a lot of people who want that macho appeal, who want that strong, manly persona that the Thar, radiates. That's you don't get the same character with the Jimny. I've seen the Jimny in Europe, and it doesn't have that strength or doesn't have that imposing look and stance that you would get in the Thar in that sense. So it's a bit of a tricky situation for Maruti as well because one, they need the scale to be there for the product to be successful, which also means that they have to offer the four-wheel drive powertrain. That could be a bit of a challenge for them at this point in time because they don't have much. They're still developing that. Of course, the Jimny has got that, but with a longer wheelbase, with a longer drive shaft, like the large drive shaft, all that has to be redeveloped for five-door versions. And then where is the market for it? The previous Gypsy essentially was also sold to the army, to the armed forces, and that's one thing that kept it buoyant for a very very long time. And whether the Jimny would be accepted, well, is anyone's guess. Maruti will have to go through the entire process again, but if they do succeed in doing that, and they're able to get the numbers up with the army, the armed forces contributing the sales numbers, then possibly yes, that could be something that comes out. And same on the same lines, that could also possibly go with the Toyota badge as well. That's the next big product I think that we would possibly see from Maruti, and then of course eventually from Toyota also.
Um, but Arun wants to know what is the procedure to take a BH registration.
Well, I just think this is something you'll have to go back to your RTO and ask them for that because this is done again at your local RTO itself. It's a very simple process, not a very complicated process. You just need to upgrade your license plates for that matter to the Bharat plates. Just go back to them. Another thing is just driving school or one of those RTO agents will easily help you to do this. My recommendation: just go to one of those guys. They know the best procedures to help you and to get the BH registration.
Sunil Prasad wants to know what's MG India's plan for India except for the ZS EV facelift. Are they going to target the premium market with the updated Gloster? Or are they going to go after volumes with more compact cars?
Well, one of the plans, of course, from MG is that they are coming out with the next generation of the ZS EV. Okay. That's one thing that's happening. That will be happening soon, also for that matter. Are they going to target the premium market with updated Gloucester? Yes, they will target the update. They will bring down the updated Gloucester as well. Are they going to go to more volumes? Well, right now they're facing a problem. Essentially, that semiconductor shortage is affecting even MG for that matter. Along with that, there are various other supply chain issues also, which is affecting the Astra. They've come out quite vocally and asked for customers to bear with the delays in delivery. But they are going to go aggressively after the compact segments. What we're also hoping to see from them very soon, maybe this year or maybe early next year, is a sedan. That's another space that they want to enter in, and we've already seen some plans from them, or at least some designs from them at the Auto Expo 2 years ago. So hopefully, we'll actually see this now, in the market shortly.
All right. We have. Okay,
We have
we're
run out
being
of time.
spammed. Yeah, we've run out of time, honestly, and we are also being
Yes,
spammed.
because
But there was,
I need to go cycling, guys. So, well, it's already 7:15. I do hope we've
yeah,
answered all of the queries, or at least as many
yes,
of them as possible.
you can
Because so
still
many
join us
questions.
next week. You can still
Kia
join us
Carens
next
price.
week for
Krishna
many
Rajoria
questions.
wants to know the Kia Carens price. I'll give you that, Krishna. Yeah, like Mayur says, don't spam. But Kia's price announcement will happen sometime in March. We have no idea where it's going to be priced at. It will be announced sometime in March. We are also waiting to see very eagerly to see what the pricing is going to be like. So let's well, fingers crossed that it's competitive. But we just have to wait for a few more weeks.
All right, before we actually say goodbye, let's quickly take a look at
Dilip,
what's on the
Dilip has
Overdrive
a
TV show.
sorry, Soini. Dilip's got a question. Query continues from his earlier question. Sure, but Thar
Thar
needs
one, is it?
changes, reverse camera, more space, and for all of these, Mahindra is planning for a five-door Thar in future. Yes, they definitely need this for it to be for it to get more acceptance, larger acceptance, reach out to more consumers. They definitely need the five-door. People are looking for who still want that butch, strong, appealing look that the Thar has to offer, but also want to put their family in and some luggage in, and that's where the five door is coming in. So yes, it makes sense for them to do that. They're already working on it. What I do know is that that project there are several challenges, and one of them, of course, is because there's this huge demand for the current three door Thar, and for the XV700. They're not able to get that five door in the pipeline, or to kind of completely finish development of that and get it ready. There are certain delays happening at their end. One of them, I think, is also that the molds and the dies, those are not entirely ready as of yet. They're having a few problems with that as well. But I think all of these will get sorted out, and hopefully by the end of this year, we will see some announcements for a five door Thar coming out also.
Okay, we
Wow,
don't
guys, it was
want.
like really tons of questions today,
No, no,
and
we'll take one more. We don't want Gulati or Puneet to be upset with us. Can you please update how the Hector hybrid model is?
sorry, what was the question again? Can you please update how is Hector hybrid model? I really, your guess is as good as mine, Puneet, because I'm not entirely sure how the Hector hybrid model is going to be like. We haven't driven it as of yet. So as soon as we can, we'll get you an update on it.
All right,
So
very quickly.
contrary to popular belief, I haven't driven all the cars, guys, in the world. There's still a lot of models to be driven, tested, evaluated, experienced. Most of them. Time's very short. These days, I'm very picky and choosy about what I drive. I definitely like to drive the interesting cars, and I don't mean just the more powerful, fast, for that matter. But yes, I do like to drive the more interesting cars, and reserve opinion over some of those that make me enjoy driving them for that matter. I don't enjoy driving all the cars, but I do, even though I do drive them, because I have to sit on various jury panels and evaluate them, whether it's the OVERDRIVE Awards or the ICOT Awards. So we have to have driven all these cars through the year. But otherwise, I don't really go out and drive everything that is there. I'm quite selective in what I get my hands on.
Okay, so we will quickly take a look at what we have on the show tomorrow on CNBC TV at 1 p.m. The Kia Carens is the flavor of the week, so a detailed review will air on the show as well. And there's a new commercial EV in town that could soon be ferrying you across the city. So we'll take a look at the EV, the E6 from BYD Auto as well. Check out this tomorrow at 1 p.m. on CNBC TV 18. You can also catch the repeat telecast of the show on Sunday at 12:30 and 8 p.m. You can also live stream the show on cnbctv18.com/live TV. So we'll see everyone next week, Bert.
Yes, we will see you guys next week. But after that, I'm not entirely sure if we will see the week after that because we're all out, well, on a big story again. We're coming back to you. And I'll just throw a short, a very small, well, I won't say preview over here, but a small announcement. We're out on a long drive. Not a very, very long drive, but a fairly long drive in challenging conditions. Something interesting coming your way. So, in 2 weeks' time, that's when we're going to execute it. And in roughly, I think about 4 weeks' time, we should have that story ready for everybody to see. So, well, keep your
But
fingers
we'll have
crossed.
plenty of social media posts out. People
Yes,
will be able to be a
do
part of
follow
it.
us on Instagram, do follow us on Twitter because all of those posts will be coming out. You will know exactly what we're up to. And this time it's far, far trickier than anything that I've ever attempted before. This is going to be a real
Bert
challenge.
is just getting bolder. Bert was bold in 2021 as well, and this story is just
Yes,
even
hasn't the
bolder.
pandemic taught all of us just go a little crazier, just be a little different from what we've done conventionally? And I mean, we've been crazy for a very, very long time. We've been doing crazy for a very long time. So we just get more crazier with all of our ideas. What's the point if you don't think larger than life? Isn't that the startup motto? Think big.
Absolutely.
See ya. No?
Startup motto. Nice. All right. We'll see you guys next week then. Thanks so much for joining in.
Thank you guys. Have a nice weekend. See you all soon. Bye bye.